नमस्कार दोस्तों, वर्चुअल लर्निंग के इस अमेजिंग प्लेटफॉर्म पर इंग्लिश लिटरेचर के चैनल लिट ई सिटी में आई वंस अगेन वेलकम यू ऑल. Okay friends, we are working on some important poems of 20th century. All of you are very well aware that this whole 20th century is basically divided into 3 or 4 major phases. There was a period before 1914 or the beginning of the First World War, then between the war periods, then after the war or Cold War period, and after that we can say postmodern, and other terms are also given for this. And poetry of these different phases is also very dissimilar in its taste, in its theme, in its treatment. There have been various kind of experiments being done by the major poets. My attempt in all these lessons is to provide you a gist of some major important poems. These will be helpful for you people, not only for your preparation for of NET exam, but also to get an idea about this whole 20th century. Okay, we have done 2 episodes in this series, and today we are going to deal with 3 poems by 3 very important poets. First is by Sylvia Plath, and the poem is Ariel. Second one we will take an Arundel tomb, that is by Philip Larkin, and third one is by W.H. Auden, One Day When I Want to Walk. Okay, so let's start our first poem, that is Ariel, written in 1962 and written by Sylvia Plath. Now this poem is a landmark poem in the field of confessional poetry, or we can say it is one of those poems in which the speaker or the poet is very difficult to differentiate. The life of Sylvia Plath is full of personal traumas and tragedies, and her poetry very well reflect all these personal traumas. Ariel is one of those poems, and it is a hugely anthologized and popular poem. Actually, she wrote this poem on her 30th birthday, that is 27th October 1962, and she was so much self-satisfied by this composition that she decided to give its title to her second collection of poetry. Initially, it was decided that the title would be, the book would be titled as Daddy, which is another very popular poem by Sylvia Plath. But eventually she decided to give the book the title Ariel. Now her husband Ted Hughes, he basically informed in one of interviews that Ariel was actually the name of the horse on which Plath went riding. So it is name of her personal horse, and we also are aware of this fact that Ariel, basically its meaning in Hebrew is God's lioness. Ariel is a symbolic name for the holy city of Jerusalem. And finally Ariel, we also know it is name of a popular character, an airy spirit which occur in Shakespeare's The Tempest. The name Ariel is also to be found in many other works, many other poems and novels. Now this particular poem Ariel, it is composed of 10 stanzas, and there are 3 lines per stanza, and then in the end there is additional single line. Many poems which Sylvia Plath wrote during the turbulent period of her marriage, after the collapse of her marriage with Ted Hughes, Ariel basically transforms an everyday rural activity, personal or simple activity, that is horse riding, and this is basically changed into a charged narrative dramatizing extreme and conflicting emotions. It is a hallmark of Sylvia Plath's poetry that she presents her turbulent state of mind through some very great images. Okay, very opening line, status in darkness. It's also very popular phrase it has become. It uses just 5 syllables, as you can see, and it basically try to convey the experience of sitting on an unmoving horse waiting for dawn. So the beginning of the poem, the speaker, and in this case we can safely say Sylvia Plath is on the horseback, and she is in a meditative mood. All of a sudden, the substanceless blue, that is sky, the sky and the scenery around her is flying around. The horse, which was a moment before was totally in a static condition, suddenly the horse rushes forward, and she describes the purr of torrent distances, the hillsides, woods, and other landmarks. They are all speeding by her as Ariel carries her away, as if somebody has totally changed. She has somehow put into a whirlwind of motion. This is described by Sylvia Plath. The speaker, as she is on the verge of losing control, it is the horse has garnered so much speed. The horse is moving with such a quick speed that she is not able to find herself different from the scenery itself. She considers that she has lost all the external control. Finds the furrow. What is furrow? The indentions, the marks made by the horse's hooves in the ground, and horse's brown arc of the neck are alike as sisters. So she is not able to differentiate between the marks on the earth and the arc of the neck of the horse. It all is getting mingled in her mind, in her soul, whatever is going on. As she rides, the narrator observes blackberries casting dark hooks. There are on both sides of the path, there are trees of berries, and these blackberries are just like some hooks which are trying to pull her out, and a profusion of shadows. There is something else. Now, that something else is not in the arena of definition. It is beyond description that forcefully pulls her through the air as she rides. Its strength described as thighs, hairs, and her heels, which flake from the force of the ride. She has basically find herself mingled, totally get up into the act of the horse. She compares herself to Lady Godiva. Now, those who are aware, those who have read poetry of Tennyson, they must be aware of the poem written by Tennyson. Lady Godiva was basically an Anglo-Saxon lady belonging to aristocracy, and her husband put a condition to her that he will pardon all the taxes from the poor peasants if she took a ride totally naked on her horse. So this is an allusion to that Lady Godiva who rode naked upon her horse. She, like Lady Godiva, is peeling off a layer, is ridding herself of dead hands, dead stringencies. Now, just like Lady Godiva rode naked, she was naked in the sense, external sense of clothes. But Sylvia Plath, she is naked because she is peeling off all the dead hands, all the experiences, all the outcomes of her experience. She is trying to uncover these things and trying to reach to the inner depths of her soul. Now, she views herself as the foam on weed, a sparkling of light on the ocean. These things which can be captured, which cannot be captured by a tentative, by a palpable hand, but which can only be felt. She feels like so light, like that of foam on a weed. feet. She also displays an urge to reject her maternal role. This is a very popular part of the poem in which she wishes the child's cry melt in the wall. She has passed the wall and she has rejected the traditional role of a mother who takes care of her child. She is even in this mood to reject this role also. In the poem's final lines, her liberation from her social and physical self is complete, as if this peeling is done and now she is totally self. There is no external obligation, there is no sense of responsibility, there is nothing kind of a traditional role imposed on a woman by the society. She has casted away all these kind of outer garments. The rider is now a potent arrow. She compares herself to an arrow as well as dew. These two images, please friends, try to read this poem and pay focus on this last stanza. She considers herself as a taut arrow which is ready to shoot itself up in the air at the dew that flies suicidal. What a beautiful line, and it also indicates the tendency, the fatal tendency of the speaker. The dew which rises upward but which also loses its essence in this act. She is feeling in the same way. She wants to get evaporated from this physical world. As both arrow and dew, Plath is aimed upwards. She has been subsumed into both the horse and the ride as she propels herself forward into the rising sun. And the last line of the poem, into the rat, I, the cauldron of morning. So it is like she is moving upward. My dear friend, it is one of the most moving poems you will ever read, and the poet has poured her heart, her anguish, her anxieties into this poem. It's a good read for all the poetry lovers. Okay, moving to our next poem today, it is an Arundel tomb. Arundel tomb, this basically, Arundel is a place in England, and Philip Larkin visited this place, which is very famous, a tourist destination because of a particular tomb. And when Larkin visited this tomb, some ideas came into his mind, and that he presented into this particular form of poem. Larkin's poetry is remarkable for his dry, sardonic take on the romantic concepts. This poem is no exception, and this poem is taken from his very popular collection, The Whitsun Wedding, and it focuses on a 14th century tomb of a noble couple. The husband or the man is Richard Fitzalan, who was Earl of Arundel, and his wife Eleanor of Lancaster, who was his second wife. Now, the knight has a lion at his feet while the lady has a dog. The lion indicates valor and nobility, and the dog loyalty. The statue in this particular tomb, he has his right hand ungloved. Her right hand rests on his. Larkin draws inspiration from the figures, this particular sculpture, to muse on time, mortality, fidelity, and the nature of earthly love in a typical Larkinesque manner. The poem begins with a description of an actual tomb. Side by side, their faces blurred, the Earl and Countess lie in stone holding hands. Lekin हाथ के हाथ, Larkin observes that the sculpture of lion and dog, they basically create a sense of ironic contrast. Further observation, the speaker considers the style of this sculpture of the pre-1600s, and then points out one sees with a sharp, tender shock. So it's a typical Larkinesque, we can say oxymoronic kind of irony. Sharp, tender shock, his hand withdrawn, holding her hand. Now, for Larkin, the speaker thinks they would never have dreamt such things could be sustained. This longevity of love, this everlasting nature of love, that is what Larkin is hinting at and mocking at the same time. Holding hands was not something which came from their heart, but it was basically a ploy. It was a device to impress friends and admirers, as was the fashion in the 14th century, so that whoever looks at their particular tomb, they must think that, oh, what a lovely couple, what a loving couple it was. As the time passed, the silent weathering of the stone began to take effect, and the interest of local people waned. It is quite a natural fact that with time, with the passing of time, the interest, the curiosity, or the warmth which a particular set of visitors must have felt at one time, it gradually declined, and people look at it with more objective and more we can say disinterested eyes. The identities of the married couple now begin to crumble. The world outside keeps turning. It is continuously changing. The graveyards keeps filling, and the earl and his wife keep holding, maintaining a tentative grip on their relationship. Still, that dilapidated statues, the earl is still holding the hands, as if he is trying to take his love into the realm of eternity, which is quite impossible. With their identities eroded in a modern age that knows nothing of heraldry, Latin or medieval romance, the couple are nothing more than lumps of old stone. As the values have changed, old values have lost their meanings. In this particular case, in this particular age, the holding hand gesture has become meaningless for the couple. In the last stanza, the speaker concludes. He gives at least some ray of hope. We can say that time has transfigured them into untruth. The stone fidelity they hardly meant has come to be their final blazon. Blazon, you all know, it's a kind of a love song, and to prove our almost instinct, almost true. My friends, pay focus on twice use of almost. Our almost instinct, almost true. What will survive of us is love. Now, this statement can be taken as a positive or optimistic conclusion of the poem, and it can also be taken as an ironic pot shot at this couple. Whatever Larkin intended, but this line is very popular. Whatever what will survive of us is love. So it's another typical Larkin poem full of ironic take on the fluctuations or the we can say fixities of life. Okay, the last poem for today's lesson is As I Walked Out One Evening. It was written in 1937 by W.H. Auden. Now, Auden experimented with lots of literary forms and genres, and this particular poem is written in a ballad style. So it's a literary ballad, and a typical ballad-like structure. It is divided into quatrains, and the rhyme scheme is ABCB. Other elements of lyric poems are also found in it. There are three speakers in the poem: the narrator who starts the poem, the singing lover who takes then from the narrator, and all of the clocks in the city speaking as one. So it's a very particular structure which you must remember. The poem turns the prosaic scene of an evening walk into a meditation on the transience of love in face of time. So once again, like Larkin's poem, Auden also present his view about the mutability of human emotions. The poem begins with the narrator walking out one evening along Bristol Street. The narrator overhears a lover who is singing near the bridge. Now, the lover begins his discourse on love, and like a typical lover, as it was fashion even in Elizabethan and Platonic sonnets, the main theme of lover song is love has no ending. It will persist on absurd time scales like I love you dear, I love you till China and Africa meet. It's a typical hyperbolic fashion in which a lover presents his court to his beloved. The lover's promise is now answered by clocks of the city, their whir and their chime reminding that time cannot be conquered. The clocks depict sickness and fatigue and similar realities of life and mortality. Death will encroach on lovers' bliss. Then the poem brilliantly depicts the physical and emotional erosion. For example, in headaches and in worry, vaguely life leaks away and time will have his fancy tomorrow or today. Now, nevertheless, the clocks reminds the lover that even after this harsh reality, life remains a blessing. Even though we cannot overcome mortality, the fleeting loves of the life still matter, tragic though life is. You shall love your crooked neighbor with your crooked heart. Very popular lines from Larkin. These lines can be asked directly into the question paper. Despite human imperfection, loving one another is what time and the clocks tell us we will do. Finally, after the clocks are done telling the lover about time, the speaker notices the lovers are gone. Once again, the speaker takes his hand and the poem ends as the speaker notes, the clocks had ceased their chiming and the deep river ran on. It basically suggests a timelessness on a broader history in which lovers are insignificant, just a small part. Okay friends, so this was our 3 poems in this particular episode. Please go through the text of these poems for better understanding, and also suggest me on different topics you would like me to make more videos. Thank you, my dear friends.